or as if Allah doesn't know what's really going on. This is important. We say, it's easy to say Allah knows everything. Easy to say. And then people say, oh, Ustadh, you know, some people, they do really bad things, but they don't look like they get punished. Like, how come? Why is Allah doing that? And then you're like, yeah, but what Allah is gonna like punish them on Judgment Day or what? Oh, so He has to explain to you what He's gonna do. This is how this works. Because when Judgment Day begins and everybody's about to be judged, you're like, hold on, Allah, I just want to make sure this guy who stole my ketchup from McDonald's gets what he deserves. Now we may begin. Okay, we have this sense of entitlement that somehow Allah owes us an explanation. Allah says, Allah is not going to be one to inform you of what He does in the unseen. Why does He have to tell you?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي فالحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Once again everyone, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Surah Al-Jumu'ah, which is typical of this group of surahs, especially the musabbihat, meaning the surahs that begin with the tasbih of Allah, the 5 of them in this group, are very deep and loaded beginnings. So my intention is to try and finish our discussion on the first ayah today. Looks unlikely, but I'm going to not rush through it. I want to be able to cover everything that I wanted to share with you in some detail, inshallah, and see how we progress. Anyway, so the first conversation I want to have with you is about the word tasbih, or the word yusabbihu, that occurs in the ayah. Once again, in easy translation, the first part of this ayah is whatever is in the skies and whatever is in the earth does and will continue to do tasbih of Allah, meaning declares and will continue to declare the perfection of Allah. One of the most important studies in the Quran is the study of words. So Arabic is really unique because every word has an etymology and an entire story behind it. So I just said declares the perfection of Allah. That's an easy English translation. But behind this word is imagery. This word tasbih comes from sabaha, and sabaha has some images associated with it. So as we will go through this series of lectures, every time we come across a word, we're going to go look in the background of that word. Where does this word come from? How are the Arabs using the associated words? And then how do we get to the meaning of the word that we're dealing with in this ayah? Okay, so those secondary meanings, those background meanings, they help us get a deep understanding of the word that Allah is using. So let's start with tasbih, which is coming from the letters sin, ba, and ha. Those are the root letters of this word, sabaha. Sabaha. Sibah were actually unstitched hide or leather garments. I couldn't find a better picture than that. But anyway, ancient times, babies had clothes, but they didn't have any stitching on the side. You just stick the arms in and the neck in, and it just flows, right? So it doesn't, you can't tell if the baby's fat or skinny because it's all just kind of flowing. So that, which doesn't stick to the body, right? Doesn't contour to the body. Those kinds of clothes were called sibah. It also means to be stretched or extended out. Tasabbuh is used when you're stretching leather. That's actually called tasabbuh, or stretching a string or a rope or something like that. So far we got the meaning of something that doesn't, dip down into the shape of the body, and something that's stretched out, leveled out. Then tasabbuh is actually when you swim and you don't go underwater. So you're swimming, but you stay above the water the whole time. If you go under the water and you come up, that's called al-aun. It's a different word for swimming. But sabaha is actually, or sabaha, the verb, is actually when you don't dip at all, you stay above. So now we've got this idea, this concept of something stretched out like a straight line, something that doesn't dip into the body of the child, and even a swimmer that doesn't dip under the water. He maintains, or she maintains, the level. Faras sabih, a horse was described as sabih that extends its legs out as far as it can. So when it gallops, it stretches its legs out. So it's called hasanu or hasanu maddin yadayn fil jari, meaning it extends it as far as it can when it runs. So being extended and engaged without being immersed. Likewise, like the swimmer who won't submerge, meaning the swimmer that won't go down. The child's loose garment doesn't contour to the body and thus doesn't immerse into the form of the child. That's why outer garments are called kisa musabbah, meaning spread out. Thus, constant activity with no downtime. This is interesting. If you're working, and you never take a break, like the swimmer who never goes under the water, that's actually called sabah. And it's used for the Prophet ﷺ when Allah says, Inna laka fin nahari sabhan tawila. You have long, endless, breakless, seamless tasks, work to do, where you're not going to get any breaks. And that's called sabhan, maintaining. From this came the idea of not being brought down in any way. In other words, I'm not going to say anything about Allah that brings down His perfection. So the idea of tasbih is maintaining or floating our concept of Allah and not letting it drown even a little bit, or not letting it weaken even a little bit in any way, right? So the way that the scholars talked about this, for example, what doesn't befit His Majesty's perfection. بَعْضُهُ بِالتَّنْزِيهِ, some of it has to do with Him being declared perfect. عَنْ أَنْ يُنْسَبْ إِلَيْهِ تَعَالَى مَا يَلِيقُ الشَّرِيكِ, meaning that you say something that is not appropriate for Him, whether it's a partner or a child, أو نحوه مما يصفون أن يخلق شيئا باطلا, or if you say Allah made something without a purpose. By the way, that's philosophically, Allah says He created the skies and the earth with purpose. You know what that means? That He created me with a purpose. But it also means every situation He created, He also created with a purpose. Every disadvantage in my life was for a purpose. Every advantage of my life was for a purpose. Every test was for a purpose. Every ability and every disability was for a purpose. And the moment I start thinking, I don't see the point why Allah did this, it looks pretty purposeless to me, the tasbih of Allah is going away. Because Allah never does something without purpose, right? So that's important. Now, an yura bil basar, that He can be seen. I used to have a coworker back in New York when I was in college in 1864. And she told me, hey, you're religious, right? I was like, a little bit. And she said, I saw God in my dream last night. I was like, no, you didn't. She's like, no, I did. I was like, no, that was the devil. That was the devil. It wasn't it. And she said, he looked like you. I was like, that was definitely the devil. It was definitely the devil. Okay. أن تعلم ملائكته ما لم يعلمهم, or saying something like, the angels saying that, how can we know something you didn't teach us? Even the angels claiming, I could even know something that you didn't. لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا. They said, Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana. How perfect you are. How can we know anything that you didn't teach us? Right? So even me thinking I know something that didn't actually, my knowledge, my experience, my skill somehow came from somewhere other than Allah. Right? That's also taking away from perfection of Allah. And yakhfa alayhi makru shar. Or as if Allah doesn't know what's really going on. This is important. We say, it's easy to say Allah knows everything. Easy to say. But then people are like, easy to say Allah is fair, Allah is just. And then people say, Ustadh, some people, they do really bad things, but they don't look like they get punished. Like, how come, why is Allah doing that? Like, doesn't He know that they did something bad? And I'm like, do you know what you're saying? Who are you talking about here? You're talking about Allah, and you're saying, doesn't He know? You don't know the answer to that question? You don't already know that He knows? And then you're like, yeah, but what Allah is going to punish them on Judgment Day or what? Oh, so He has to explain to you what He's going to do. This is how this works. Because when Judgment Day begins and everybody's about to be judged, you're like, hold on, Allah, I just want to make sure this guy who stole my ketchup from McDonald's gets what he deserves. Now we may begin. Okay, we have this sense of entitlement that somehow Allah owes us an explanation. Allah says,
Allah is not going to be one to inform you of what He does in the unseen. Why does He have to tell you? And this disease that we have now, that, things happen in my life, things happen in your life. And people really question a lot. Why did that happen? Why did that happen to me? Right? And then they say, my faith is in crisis until Allah reveals to me the secret behind why this happened to me. Until I know why this happened to me, I don't know. I don't know if I can trust Allah. Because I don't see the logic in it. He needs to convince me of His logic before I can move on. This is the height of arrogance. And it's also, it's our dissatisfaction, but we allow it to turn into arrogance. Ar-Rabbu Rabb. The Master is the Master. He doesn't owe me an explanation. I have to humble myself before Him. When I was teaching Surah Al-Dhariyat, Ibrahim alayhi salam's wife was very old. You know that, right? And Allah sent the angels, and what did the angels tell her? You're going to have a baby. She could have been like, oh yeah? Now? Well, I was 20, I was 21, 22, 30, 40. You want to come tell me I'm going to have a baby when I can't even sit down without my bones cracking? Now I'm going to have a baby? This is wisdom? This is what wisdom looks like? This is Allah's plan? Huh? She could have done that, yes or no? Because can she see the logic in it? No. Can anybody see the logic in that? No. All these years I'm living in depression because I can't give Ibrahim alayhi salam a child. And now when I'm probably going to die before he gets old, now you're going to give me a child. What does the angel say to her? كَذَلِكِ قَالَ رَبُّكِ إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْحَكِيمُ الْعَلِيمُ. This is exactly how your Master said it. We're just delivering the news. I didn't come up with the policy. I'm here to deliver the package. Just this what I'm. كَذَلِكِ قَالَ رَبُّكِ. He has all the wisdom and He knows. Meaning you need to trust what? The wisdom of Allah. The wisdom of Allah is perfect. The knowledge of Allah is perfect. It's not like He didn't know my situation and then He made this decision. Or He didn't consider everything before He made a decision. He makes a decision knowing everything. I'm the one who has lack in knowledge, not Him. I'm the one who has lack in wisdom, not Him. This is part of the tasbih of Allah. The absolute flawless nature of His Lordship. So the word tasbih, and we'll dive into this a little bit more, has also been used to describe the greatness of Allah. But that's the secondary meaning. The first meaning is we never think or say something about Allah that is less than perfect of Him. Okay. Now, it says, يُسَبِّحُ لِلَّهِ. Lillahi. The lam, if you hear the li before Allah, you can say in Arabic, يُسَبِّحُ اللَّهَ. Perfectly good Arabic. يُسَبِّحُ اللَّهَ. Okay? Like وَتُسَبِّحُوهُ بُكْرَةً وَأَصِيلًا. We don't say تُسَبِّحُ لَهُ, we say تُسَبِّحُوهُ. So the lam, even if you don't hear it, it's still correct Arabic. So then what's the lam doing there? It creates two meanings. One, it creates the meaning tasbih done of Allah. Meaning, whatever's in the skies and whatever's in the earth is in fact declaring Allah's perfection. But the lam can also be ta'diyah. It creates a new meaning. What does that mean? Everything in the skies and the earth declares perfection of Allah for Allah. Now, why is that important, of and for? What difference does it make? The difference it makes is, if I do something for someone, if I did something for you, then I'm describing my intentions. If I did something to you, I'm describing my action. But if I just say I did something for you, then I'm describing my what? Intention. And if I say it was for you, that means I was sincere to you. If the universe is doing tasbih for Allah, that means the universe is not being forced to do it. They're genuinely doing it out of sincere intention. Every creation Allah made, that Allah made in its nature, actually recognizes how perfect Allah is and genuinely does tasbih. It's not being forced to do it. Allah didn't force it to do tasbih. Allah is not tyrannical over His creation. Everything, and that's why we find in the Quran, إِئْتِيَا طَوْعًا أَوْ كَرْهًا قَالَتَا أَتَيْنَا طَاعِينَ. When Allah created the skies and the earth, He said to them, you want to surrender willingly or unwillingly? Do you want to be forced or do you want to be willing? And they said, we surrender willingly. So this willing tasbih of Allah means that all of creation does a sincere praise of Allah. They're not, atheists like to argue, why does your God like praise so much? Why is he so, and they use words like, why is he so narcissistic? Why is he so self-centered? Because whatever diagnosis they have of themselves, they put that onto God because they have God complex themselves, so they put that onto God. And our first response, there's many responses to that, but one of them is actually nothing praises him because he demanded it. Everything praises him because once they recognize him, they're compelled to do it on their own, just by the recognition of who he is. Which then leads to other, I told you in some surahs, and by the way, one more thing about the tasbih for Allah, that refers to sincerity, right? And these surahs will have one subject that came through all 10 of these surahs. What was it? Hypocrisy. And hypocrites have one major problem, which is what? Sincerity. Right? So the very beginning phrase actually embeds sincerity because that's going to be a problem that Allah is going to address throughout these surahs. Okay. Now, when tasbih is mentioned in the past, like everything has declared the perfection of Allah, everything has been declaring the perfection of Allah, it's as if Allah is saying this is an ancient truth and you're late. Like this has been going on long before you even existed, everything was doing tasbih. Why do you think that if you don't do it, it's not going to happen? Oh, it's been happening. It's a lot bigger than you. It's a lot older than you. And the universe is just, the universe we know is just the first sky. The 13.9 billion light year old universe that we know is just the first sky. And then there's the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh skies, whose ages we can't even imagine. And all of them have been doing what? Tasbih. So just imagine the volume of tasbih compared to even the earth's tasbih. And then within the earth, imagine the volume of tasbih that I do in one lifespan. You can't even put the number of zeros you would have to put before you put the one on the percentage of how much my tasbih counts in the existence of tasbih is so minuscule, and the ages for which it has been going on is so large that it humbles me and it makes me realize me praising Allah doesn't benefit Allah in any way, doesn't add to Allah in any way, doesn't secure Allah in any way, doesn't make him feel bad. Human beings need praise. Human beings need, redemption. Human beings need likes and heart emojis and fire emojis under their post. They need that. Allah doesn't need acknowledgement for his acknowledgement to exist. It's always existed. And and also, of course, I put here, you're not being asked of something new. It's not like, why is Allah asking me this? No, he's not asking you of this. This is actually something that's existed much before you. And in your very nature, you're denying your own nature. But this surah is about tasbih in the present and also the future. What the present actually tells you is tasbih. Whether I do it or not, it's happening all around me. It's actually already happening all around me. In fact, it's even happening within my own body. My blood cells are doing tasbih right now. My skin cells are doing tasbih right now. My nails are doing tasbih right now. My heart is doing tasbih right now. The way I describe this in Surah Al-Hadid, I'm going to describe it the same way to you guys. I want you to know that Allah is in control of everything, right? But what he did for human beings is he also put most of our life out of our control. Where was I going to be born? Was that under my control? Where am I going to die? Is that under my control? My genetics, are they under my control? My height, my skin color, my brain capacity, my thought process. Was that under did I decide? Did I have any say in that? No, I don't have any say in that. What people will come in my life? What am I going to be allergic to? What am I going to have a bad reaction to? What sicknesses am I going to fall under? What car will come hit me if I'm driving on the road? None of this is under my control. You understand? Like there's so much, most of my life is actually not under my control at all. My rizq is not written by me, it's written by Allah Azza wa Jalla. وَلَا تَدْرِي نَفْسٌ بِأَيِّ أَرْضٍ تَمُوتُ. I don't decide where I'm going to die. Nobody knows where they're going to die, right? I didn't decide who my siblings are, who my cousins are, who my parents are. If you guys had a choice to choose who your siblings are going to be, we'd be in very different families, some of us, right? So, but the idea is, not me, I'm happy with my siblings. But anyway, so you have, then Allah created a very, very small circle. think of it like a fence. Small little fence inside me. And in that fence, he gave me some freedom. So he didn't give me the freedom to live outside this body. He didn't give me the freedom to live outside my lifespan, or which century should I be born in. No, he didn't give me any of those freedoms. But within this small circle, he gave me the freedom to choose right from wrong. That's it. He did give me that freedom. He gave me some operational freedom over my body. Should I raise this hand or put it down? He gave me that freedom. I don't say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just raised this hand. No, he gave me the freedom to raise this hand. He created this fence, and inside that fence, I can operate. Outside of it, everything, he's got complete control over it. You understand? Now, the things that are not under my control, like my blood flowing through my veins, my heart beating, is that under my control right now? No, it isn't. Those things are doing tasbih of Allah. But that little circle in which I have choice, that little circle, in that circle, I choose not to do tasbih of Allah sometimes. Or not the way I should. Not the way I should. But that doesn't change the fact that everything around me, and most of even me, is actually still doing what? Tasbih. Even the atheist's heart is doing tasbih of Allah. Even his heart, even his brain cells, every neuron that fires is doing tasbih of Allah. The tongue that curses God is doing tasbih of Allah. And that's why that tongue on Judgment Day is going to say, yeah, you made me do that, but now Allah allowed me to, Allah handed you the controller over this thing. But today, the hand, the feet, everything starts speaking on Judgment Day. That were already under Allah's command. They were already doing tasbih of Allah. You were the one forcing them to rebel. So they say, أَنْتَقَنَا الَّذِي أَنْتَقَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. The one who makes everything speak today is making us speak. So the way I describe even our bodies is like, I used to watch a lot of Gundam anime stuff when I was younger. Some of you might know, or I don't know, if you're more lame that you watch Power Rangers, I don't know. But you're underneath a gigantic robot and you're controlling it, right? So Allah has handed you the controls over this body. This body is not me. This is just a robot that I've been given control over. And then one day will come and I will lose control over this machine. This machine will be taken away from me. And then when it's regenerated, it will not be under my control. مُهْطِعِينَ مُقْنِئِي رُؤُوسِهِمْ. Allah says, Judgment Day, disbelievers are going to be staring straight at their punishment and running towards it. The natural thing is, if you see danger, first of all, you don't look at it. And second of all, if you do see it, what do? You run the other way. Judgment Day, Allah describes people that disbelieve are looking at the fire, looking at the punishment, and their heads are staring and they can't blink and they're running straight towards it. What does that tell you? Their bodies are no longer what? There's no longer under their control. The guy is being handed his book on his left hand behind his back. He no longer has the power to what? How bad is it? He can't. It's behind his back, on his left side. He can't do it because the control has been taken away. But right now we have limited control. Anyway, so it's happening all around you and you're missing out. When Allah says everything is already doing tasbih of Allah and will continue to do so, actually should make you feel like maybe I should join that group, that part. The rest of the universe is on board. I'm the only one missing out. This is called kinaya. And kinaya is a big part of Quran study. Let me tell you what kinaya is. Nowadays, people say this on TikTok. Tell me something without telling me something. Right? That's kinaya. Kinaya means, so when Allah says, for example, if I say right now, oh, it's kind of hot in here. It's much better now because the doors are open. But like, if I said, it's kind of hot in here, and the organizer said, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Good observation. You're not getting my kinaya. I was saying, can we make it cooler? But I didn't say that. I just said what? It's getting hot. Or you come home and your child is there and you come home and you sit down and you say, oh man, I'm thirsty. And your son looks at you and says, yeah, it makes sense. You had a long day. It's hot outside. I said, I'm thirsty. And he says, I heard you. And it makes sense. I can see what. Kinaya means go run and get the water. But you're not going to say that. You're just going to say, I'm thirsty. When Allah says, everything in the skies and everything in the earth is doing tasbih and will keep doing tasbih. And you listen to that and say, that's so cool. That's really cool. Everything's doing tasbih. Stupid is telling you, do tasbih. That's called what? Kinaya. When you study Quran, you have to keep an eye open for kinaya. Okay? Allah is telling you something in between the lines, and it doesn't take a genius to understand that that's what's being said. Okay? Also, because the present and future is being mentioned, they will continue to do tasbih as if to say, I'm not going to be around forever. I'm here for a little bit and I'm going to be gone, but the tasbih of Allah will remain. It will go on forever. And so it's hinting at the future. There's a subtle in the surahs where the tasbih is mentioned in the future tense. Something in this surah is coming that's going to tie into the future, because the tasbih is also mentioned in the future. So we're going to keep an eye open for that when we study Surah Al-Jumu'ah, because the tasbih is hinting towards the future, right? So we'll see how that manifests itself.
Here's what's coming up in the next episode and this deeper look of Surah Al-Jumu'ah.
But then comes a much more difficult question. If creation is imperfect, by the way, am I perfect? No. Are you perfect? No. Is anything in the world perfect actually? No. The only one who's perfect is who? Is Allah. So now here's the problem. Here's the philosophical problem. The problem is, if I see a beautiful painting, I say the artist is creative. But then how can I see something imperfect and then say the maker is perfect? How can I say that it's perfect? Because we're saying everything declares how perfect Allah is, but everything itself is not perfect. So how is it an evidence that the maker of it is perfect? This is, by the way, a very common atheist argument. Oh, your God is so perfect? What about cockroaches? What about a rash on your skin? What about my cousin? God is so perfect. The point is, actually,